All right, we're recording. So now it's real.
It's real now.
It's happening. Oh my God, Jen.
I
It's
know it's
us.
happening. You know why? Because I see us right now.
I know, I see us too, and we look amazing. It's so good to see you.
Welcome to see you.
I
Oh my
missed
God.
you. How are you?
I miss you. I'm good. I'm good. I put on makeup for you and I straightened my hair for you.
I mean, I I don't remember the last time someone's done that for me. So
It's been quite some time.
I appreciate the love. Oh, we got comments.
Oh,
Oh, Jamie says hello. Yay, Jamie, you're with
hi,
us tonight. We were just talking about you. And then Jennifer. Hi, Jen. Well, it's Jennifer and Jennifer. It's amazing.
Oh my God. This is so fun.
So let me be the first to welcome you to Friday Night Feels, because this is the real shit.
This is the real shit, and I'm so pumped.
So this is how it rolls, like all the cool kids, we're still in a pandemic. I don't know if you knew.
I think I knew.
Well, it's like every time I open the news, it's like something different. So I
I feel like I open the news and it's the same thing every time.
Someone sent me this thing where it was a meme where it was that red line that says warning or update, and then it goes, "What the F now?" And I'm like, exactly.
That's how I feel about the news right now.
Yeah. So how are you doing? So, for people who are watching, this is my good friend Jen, who has a private practice in Amherst, New York, and is an amazing counselor. And you specialize in addictions, mental health, trauma. But you also work with some other specialty groups, correct?
Sort of.
Okay.
So I do two things. In addition to having my private practice where I have one kid that I was seeing, like a 9-year-old girl. So I've done a little bit with kids, but I also work for an agency in the mental health department. So I do outpatient, like community mental health counseling. We work a lot with like mood disorders, personality disorders. I do have a lot of experience in addiction as well, and obviously trauma, since you're my EMDR consultant.
With the EMDR. And it's interesting. This is one thing that people don't talk about is, I think when you're in this field and you're younger, I think people really sometimes question, do you have the experience? Do you are you all of this? Have you ever experienced that?
I have. I've definitely experienced that. I experienced that more a couple years ago at my first job out of grad school. I had gotten people who like asked me how old I was, asked me like more personal questions, just kind of like the underlying tone, is, do you really have the experience to guide me here? So I've definitely experienced that. Not in a few years though, which I'm grateful for.
And when I was an intern, and when I was doing my graduate work, and then when I first entered the field, I can understand, and I think people have every right to question and ask. Sometimes there are those boundary crossings.
Yeah.
But the reason I asked is because getting to know you, for example, your clinical skills are just exceptional.
Oh, thanks.
And I'm just thinking of, how, people have a hard time finding someone. And, you and I are both in New York, but, different areas.
Right.
But, being able to look, and know someone, it's like, that's in the field. And, I think from what I've gotten to know of getting to know you, of just really being able to connect with your clients, and, I think you just blow me away. And I think your clients will probably love working with you.
Oh, this is so lovely. You're the best.
Well, it's just one of those things too of, when you're in the field, you never really hear a lot of feedback. You hear pretty much how, like, at least in the clinic world, like, what you're not getting the numbers, ever. So we're screwed from birth. Okay. But, being able to look at that, because, I feel that being especially trauma informed with everything going on, I think if you're not trauma informed, and when Jamie was on, and she can probably check into this, being able to say, if you're not trauma informed, it's holding you back in the mental health field.
Yeah.
And it's holding you back specifically also in the addiction field. I don't know if you agree with that.
100%. I would agree with that. Absolutely.
So I just wanted to let you know, a few people are saying hello. So Livy is saying hi. Sherry L is saying hi, Jen.
That's my mom.
Oh, hi, Sherry. I know you don't know me, but your lovely daughter. Amy is saying hello, my EMDR lovies.
Hey.
Hi, Amy. Jamie's there. Susan. Hi, Susan. Marianne M. Hi. It's, good for all of you to join us. We're so glad you're here. So, going back to that of being able to see, when you're in this field, and I think it's so different, from you and I entered in it, like for me, it wasn't that long ago, and I don't know how long you've been out. It's changed significantly.
Absolutely.
When I was in grad school, there was that I recall, there was no class on trauma. PTSD was just a diagnosis that you learned about. And I think when I entered the field, that really set me up as a deficit as a therapist.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I got a good amount of trauma training in my undergraduate, which is my bachelor's in social work. That program was at Malloy College, and that's on Long Island. And I have to tell you, that program set me up for true success. I had taken a few classes specifically focused on trauma, like some of my professors, their research areas were solely on trauma. But I know that that's a common thing for people in grad school or in internships. A lot of times you don't really get that trauma informed training or trauma training, period.
Yes.
And I think it's so important, and especially when it comes to addiction, I do think that is exceptionally important, and it's not always there, unfortunately.
I know it's amazing to me because I used to teach in a human service department at a school, and there was nothing in the curriculum about trauma. And I'm just thinking, these people are coming into this field. They're doing it because they want to help people. They want to do that. But I think even if you don't necessarily want to specialize in trauma, understanding, that it's a huge component of what happens to us.
Absolutely.
And what I've seen in my experiences is, when people hear trauma and PTSD, the instant connection is to soldiers and 9/11 and car accidents and immediate death. And I think one of the things that I found to be so powerful is when you can really expand that definition of trauma, that is a wound, emotional, psychologically, physical, spiritual. And then I think when people get that, and I don't know what you find, you really start seeing some movement in therapy.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I agree with that wholeheartedly, because I think a lot of times the immediate thought are those, stereotypical traumas, right? That everybody immediately jumps to. And I have to tell you that when Jamie taught about kind of like the root of trauma, the word is really a wound.
Right.
That made so much sense to me. And presenting it like that to clients, to patients, I think makes it a lot easier to like digest even talking about. And that resonated with me so much. So thanks, Jamie, for that.
Jamie, we love you. So I just wanted to let you know real quick, a few people are saying hello. Christine Chapman, do you know, is that, I don't know. She's saying hello. Catherine is saying hello. Sherry, oh, hi, she's saying hi to me now. I feel special.
You should feel special. You are special.
I do. Moms have that magic.
Oh my God.
Elizabeth B is saying, I'm from the 716, Jen.
Woo! 716. Yay.
I don't know what that means, but it's a good thing.
That's the area code here.
Oh, okay. Sorry. See, I'm out of the loop. I'm
only recently in the loop.
I'm a 518 guy. Sorry, guys.
I'm a true 516 girl, though. Let's just clear Long Island.
We have to talk about Long Island after, because I've heard some rumor, like food rumors. We got to talk about food. Harlan says, hi, Jen. You look great.
That's my
Dad, Marlena, and Ethan.
That's my dad. Hi, fam.
Elizabeth is saying, hi, Patrick. Give Sally my best. My dog. She's neglected.
Don't say that.
Well, she's just like, you're not paying attention to me. So
Oh.
Livy says, I feel like everyone has trauma of some kind.
Oh yeah.
And Jamie's saying you're welcome and that she loves us both as well.
Yeah.
So, and I think Livy brings up a point of saying everyone has trauma of some kind. And what I see is, there's almost that comparison syndrome that people get into is my pain. You see kind of two ends of the spectrum. My pain is worse than anyone else's and no one knows what it is. And that kind of keeps them stuck in their pain. And then the other people who say, well, I'm going to compare my pain to someone else's. Other people have it much, much worse. And so my pain, I should just suck it up.
Yes. Or I should just like get over it.
Get over it. Yep.
Absolutely. I think it's such a great point. And at the end of the day, I always like to say, like how you hear people say, it could always be worse. It could always be worse. I like to think of it as it could always just be different.
Yes.
Because what's hard for you might not be as difficult for me and vice versa.
Right.
What's hard for someone might not be hard for you, but what's really hard for you might not be so hard for someone else. And I think it's so important to not compare, because when we compare, we literally isolate ourselves.
Yes.
You know,
and we validate ourselves.
Right. And then no healing can really happen when we do that.
No. It's interesting. I read this really cool article on the dangers of fake positivity and spiritual bypassing.
Interesting. I'm going to need you to send that to
me. I'll do that. Let's walk. So being able to look at, and the article is so beautifully written about honoring that people have different struggles, that have different things going on, and being able to look at that fake positivity or that the spiritual bypass, and I'm sure you've heard this in your experiences, is it is what it is.
Yes.
And so I've shared with my clients that I really hate that saying, because it is what it is. Some things it pertains to, but your pain, your suffering, let's honor what it is and let's name what it is.
Yes, absolutely.
Someone, Destiny, is saying, hey, I'm Canadian. Uh-oh. She has postal codes here, like in Canada. So like she tops 518.
Whoa.
I would get really confused with that.
I would get so confused.
Yeah. So people are saying Megan and Christy and Jennifer are all saying fake positivity equals so negative and toxic. But I also think we're programmed to do it.
Yes, I agree. I agree with that. Absolutely. But I also agree that I think it's really toxic.
Yeah. And let me ask you this. How many times have you said it to yourself?
Could not even tell you. Quite some times.
Listen, this is Filter Free Friday, okay? So giddy up, because we're gonna go in.
Dude, the name on me, Filter Free Friday. This is amazing. I have no filter to begin with.
I know. That's what I love about you. I was telling Jen before we started, I was saying, they were like, well, who's your co-host this week? And I said, she's an amazing therapist. I said, she lives, in the Amherst, Buffalo area. I go, but she's from Long Island. So she's like this Long Island version of Tinkerbell. In the most magical, R-rated Disney version.
The best version, I think. And look, I will take that compliment. I really will. You'll notice that my Long Island accent comes out on like certain words, and a lot of my friends really love to make fun of me for that. So
I used to have a friend of mine. I don't remember where she was from, but we would just like tease each other in school, and she would, pull the accent, and she'd be like, "Oh no, you didn't, Patrick. Oh no, you didn't disrespect me. Oh no, you didn't." I'd be like, "Okay, this is hysterical."
Yeah, you'll see. It comes out sometimes. It also comes out when I get really excited.
Well, I look forward to hearing that.
Oh, it'll come out. It probably already has.
Yeah. So someone just asked, can it really be Filter Free Friday? We might need to do like a later version to make sure all the kiddos are asleep. Because, sometimes I told you what happened last week. There was a little Zoom bombing going on, which we don't need to go into because it was a little traumatic for me.
I would be horrified.
Yeah,
I think
but
that
I
would.
guess some people didn't see it, but I definitely did. So, going back to that process
Mhm.
of, when we're talking about fake positivity, I think it kind of opens up the discussion of when we're in this field, how important it is for us to walk our talk.
Oh my gosh, yes.
And I recently had a conversation with someone about the mental health field in general.
Yeah.
And I don't know what your experiences are, but I was amazed. I think I shared this when Jamie was on. I was amazed at when I entered the field how much resistance there was by other professionals to get therapy.
Mm. Mhm. I
And
have definitely seen that.
it's one of those things of, as I've developed in my craft and in my, studying and research of learning in my own life of, well, then why the hell am I doing this?
Right.
Why am I gonna have someone come in and trust me
Absolutely.
when I can't even do the same thing? And
Absolutely.
since then I have done it, when I need to, when there's that need there, but I was not prepared for that stigma in the field.
Mhm. Absolutely. I have definitely seen that. I've seen that with, you know, friends of mine that are also in the field. I am very open about being in therapy since I was like literally six, maybe on and off over the years. And there's no shame in that. I really do think that we need to know what it's like.
And this is kind of like an area code, not postal code question.
Yes.
In like Long Island, and from people I've known that are from the city, there tends to be less stigma about being in therapy in some groups. Is that accurate?
I think so. I do think that in certain areas it's more acceptable per se. I think in Manhattan, depending on where you are, a lot of things are just super acceptable. But I will say that there have been times that I was in the city and my tattoos, for example, I had gotten like stares and like dirty looks and things like that. Feeling like people were judging. I
Right.
got that in Manhattan, and you never would have thought you'd get that there. And I've gotten it on Long Island. And I think overall, just people's views of therapy or medication or differences, they vary from place to place.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I could like generalize, obviously, but I've definitely seen that.
I've seen a significant change. I'm from the North Country, and I think growing up, it was interesting. It blows my mind how different it is today. We had one school counselor that was there part time.
Wow.
So you would, if you were lucky, you could see if you had something going on, you could see her, maybe every 2 weeks or every 3 weeks. Outside counseling, I don't remember it ever really being talked about.
Mm-hmm.
And then as we got older, it was more discussed. But I think today it's just been blown, thankfully out of the water where, it's much more normalized.
Yes.
It's funny, I've had situations where there are people that I'm close to who know what I do for a living.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll say, we're talking about something, and, one of our normal questions is, well, have you thought about therapy?
Mm-hmm.
And some people are like, oh, well, I have, but I haven't, or it's really difficult. And then some people get offended.
Mm.
And it's really interesting to me of, well, you know what I do, right?
Right. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. I think there's definitely still stigma. And I think that's a huge barrier for so many people. And that's something that like I think all of us who are in the field who have also received our own therapy are really passionate about is like breaking that stigma. Like there's nothing wrong with going to therapy. It's you go to the gym, you go to a yoga class,
Yep.
that's just physical therapy work.
Yeah. And I'm one of my new phrases that I'm going to X out is, well, it's like my friends and family can listen. It's like,
Mm,
that's not what it is.
right.
Because I remember when I started with a new counselor, and you're doing the intake paperwork and you're talking all that stuff, but then you get to talk about some of the things that you're struggling with.
Yeah.
And then the session ends, and all of a sudden, and I had forgotten because it'd just been a while since I've been in therapy.
Yeah.
I could breathe easier.
Mm-hmm.
And I just thought, wait a minute, someone is there that doesn't have the stigma, that doesn't have the bias, that doesn't know me, that is just there for me. And I
Mm-hmm.
didn't realize how much I needed that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because it's different. It's different. There's no emotional investment in a sense. Like I'm emotionally
Right.
invested in the clients. We know that. But it's not like I've grown up with you. I know all the things you've been through prior to this. I've been a part of it. It's so different.
Right.
So different.
So a couple people are just saying that we need to stop the stigma so that more people are comfortable seeking therapy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Sherry is saying, do you think false positivity or resistance to therapy is generally rooted in people's judgment? And a couple of people were asking, well, what's wrong with that phrase? It is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what do you think
About the
about the it is what it is? As the spiritual bypassing and the judgment towards therapy.
it is what it is phrase. I've definitely used it. I'm not going to say I haven't
Yes,
used
we
it with
do.
myself. I've never used it with another client because I would never do that. But it's so funny that the things I wouldn't say to a client that I would say to myself. So
Yep.
that's another thing. But I feel like it's just, I don't know. I'm not a fan of the phrase. I just feel like it is like dismissive of our feelings or of the situation. Like, I don't know. I'm not a fan of it. It just doesn't feel right to me.
Right. Well, I don't know if you've ever read the book Mad at America.
No.
If you ever have a chance, and anyone watching, if you ever want to, it's one of those books where you don't want to read it, and when you're reading, you don't want to read it, but you're glad you read it
Okay.
because it talks about the history of mental health treatment, stemming all the way back from asylums to
Wow.
psychosis and lobotomies and all of these different things.
Yep.
So historically, there is such a vicious connotation with he or she's crazy, they're lunatic, all of this, you know,
Mm-hmm.
hateful language that I think, has just been bred into us.
Mm-hmm.
And, I think the more that we talk about this and the more we fight and the more we talk about that, if you go to therapy, it doesn't mean you're crazy. I mean, that's probably like one of the most common questions I get is, do you think I'm crazy?
Yes.
And depending on my mood, when I might be a little sassy, I might just say, well, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because
Depending on
we
the mood.
all are crazy. We all have that, joking. And
Yep.
sometimes they're like, oh, shit. Oh, I am. But it's also sometimes the situation you've gone through is insanity.
Yes. Absolutely.
And I think as therapists, when we don't own our own crazy or our own issues or whatever you want to call it, like,
Oh
I
yeah.
mean, crazy can have that negative connotation to it, but being able to look at, we're all human.
Right.
We all suffer.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I don't, one of the words that I stray very far away from, and my mom knows this, is the word normal.
Uh-huh.
Like when people are like, I just want to be normal. I'm like, what is normal? Normal doesn't exist. Like that is one of the words I'm a big stickler on.
But
Normal.
that's another one I think we're taught, because when you ask that question, and even when you ask yourself that, is like, what is normal? You almost never get a response.
Because there's no such thing.
But it's that grass is greener on the other side syndrome of, oh, we
Uh,
see them. And then, gently about having that discussion of some people hide their pain a lot better than others.
yes.
We
Yep.
never know what is behind closed doors.
Absolutely.
And I think, when we're talking about like the phrase, it is what it is, again, I'm not going against that because sometimes it is appropriate. But when it's used as a spiritual bypass or as a way to avoid, because the spiritual bypass is basically avoiding the pain.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And so that's what keeps, as that's what keeps people in that cycle.
Absolutely.
And it keeps them hurting and in pain and then doing the same thing over and over again. And
Mm-hmm.
then they hit that wall of feeling it's never going to get better.
Right. Right. Absolutely.
Megan, some people are saying they appreciate the acceptance of some things rather than trying to put a spin on it, such as fake positivity. And
Mhm.
I, and once again, like, this conversation isn't about judging the language of,
No.
it just, my personality.
Mhm.
But for me, it's always that, and the people who know me, one of my favorite phrases is "go deeper."
Yes, you do like that
I
phrase.
do like that one.
That is one of your signature phrases.
Did I tell you? I'm gonna come out with a bobblehead. This is my dream. We all have
I'm
dreams.
gonna make you a bobblehead.
Oh my god, that would be great. I'm gonna blame it on the pandemic. When my accountant is like, "What are all these bobbleheads doing?" I'm gonna be like, "It was the pandemic."
We can write those off. It's a business
No,
expense.
it's the pandemic. I think it's a
Right.
new thing, 2020. Some people lost their shit. Some people overate. I shop for bobbleheads. I mean,
I overate. Present.
I think we need to get that to, we'll get to that in a minute too, because I can totally relate to that. Being able to look at and say, I think sometimes we're just, what I realized in myself is I wasn't necessarily I had this experience where something was stressing me out,
Yeah.
and I didn't realize it wasn't necessarily a spiritual bypassing, but it was definitely an emotional avoidance.
Hmm.
And then all of a sudden, I just took this moment because I could physically feel the shift in my body to almost like a depressive
Hmm.
feeling, and it just wasn't matching what was going on. So being able to just kind of like connect to that body and
Hmm.
say, what is this really about?
Hmm.
It was hard because it was painful. And I don't know if you've ever experienced that, with your own work.
I've I've definitely experienced that before for sure. I honestly, like, before I did the part one of the EMDR training, because I had never had EMDR done on me. Um, and when I went to part one, I was so impressed with the just like the teaching of like being in tune with your body, because I've done a lot of work, but I had not done that type of work. And it's really different, and it really is powerful and special. And obviously that's why I wanted to then do it on other people and be trained in it.
Right.
But it's so amazing that, I don't know, this is kind of like a little tangential, but like a
Filter
lot
and roll with it.
a lot of I mean, at least therapists that I've seen in the past, and there's nothing wrong with this. I think it's just, it opened my eyes to how important it is to be in tune with our bodies and how hard it is for some people, myself included. It was very hard for me in
Hmm.
part one to really like go deeper. It was very, very hard for me.
Right.
Very hard. I'll be very honest about that. But, and my best friend and I like to avoid saying but, so that's for you, Jules. And I think it really helped me understand how powerful EMDR is and how powerful it is to really be in tune with your body. Because I always thought that I was pretty self-aware, aware of my body, aware of just how I was feeling. And I was very surprised at how I was not
Right.
very aware.
Well,
And I think that's important.
yeah, that sounds so profound.
Does it? Because I think
Yeah.
it sounds pretty basic.
See, like, you're just amazing. I just love you. I think you're just magical.
I love you.
I really do.
Oh my god, this is so fun. I wore jeans for you.
I love. Well, I like am giddy. Like, it's just, I showered today, so that's what I could have done for you. I mean, that in a pandemic,
Oh,
I think
I love
is like
it.
the equivalent of flowers in 2020 pandemic.
Take it. I'll take it. I love it.
I can completely relate to that. Did I ever tell you how I got involved with EMDR?
No.
Well, because I had heard about EMDR for years, but then when I tried to learn it, there was no trainings or whatever, and then I had heard a lot of uh, confusing information about it,
Hmm.
and I was really apprehensive to it. And then I was seeing, I was in therapy, and I had told the lady I was working with at the time I was really resistant to it. But then there was this one time where I was getting really stuck on things. And she said, "Can I just try some tapping on you?" And I said, "Let's dig in." And she just did some tapping on my legs, and just really gentle. And I was blown away of how much anger came up in my body. And we weren't even taught, but then all of the memories came up of certain things that had happened. And what blew me away is my body was reacting so strongly to the tapping that I thought she was still tapping on my legs. So I just opened my eyes and she had already stood back.
Wow.
My legs were just so activated by just that gentle tapping. And I thought, I need to learn this immediately.
Oh my God. Absolutely. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was just like you said, I thought I was aware, it's not that I wasn't, but
Right.
wow.
Yes. Wow. And it's so funny. I'm actually so happy that you said that, because I truly felt a difference in eye movements didn't activate as much for me as tapping did on my legs. And that I was blown away. And I know for some people that's just not feasible for certain reasons, whatever that may be for them. But for me, it truly, I had that same experience. It was like the moment the tapping started, I was like, whoa, what is happening? And it was amazing. And things moved really quickly.
Yes. And it's funny because so many people will, and I think when you first learn it, you're so overwhelmed that, you go to your office and you try to talk about it, and you're almost, I think we fall into the trap of, we try to teach our clients everything we just learned.
Yes. Oh my God, 100%.
And then they just look at you and smoke starts coming out of their ears and like, can we just end? Because this is just creepy now. And I'm like, but it's so good. The tapping.
And they're like, I don't want to be hypnotized. And you're like, I swear that's not what it is, but I'm explaining it horribly.
You're like, Patrick, your eyes are twirl. It's like, it's okay. It's all right. I'm just so excited.
Yeah. It comes from excitement. It comes from a good place.
Yeah. And I think, and you and I have talked about this, of our presentations flow and they develop with our personalities.
Yeah.
And what I find is when we're talking about bilateral stimulation with EMDR, everybody knows what it is because we've all done it. We just haven't called it that.
Right.
And one of the two examples that I use a lot is when a baby is crying, what do? You pick them up and you rock them. And then all of a sudden they calm down. Or when you're stressed, sitting in a rocking chair, why is that so soothing? Doing the bilateral stimulation, and just your whole system can just kind of breathe more efficiently.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Amy said go with that.
I know. Oh, Amy, we love Amy. Why aren't you on with us? Like,
we should do another one.
We should. We'll talk. I'll convince her to do it. I'll use my charm. Amy, I will even shower twice for you this month.
I will too.
Then we'll put on makeup.
I'll put on makeup again. I swear.
So, Lauren is asking about therapists looking into getting trained in EMDR. If you want to just contact me or Jen, I can connect you with some great instructors and some different things going on. So if you want to just send me a private message, I'd be happy to help you with that.
Yes, Lauren, do it.
Do it.
Lauren's my friend from when I was at University of Pennsylvania. We lived in Philly apartments together.
Oh, wow.
Yes. So Lauren's in.
Wait, what area code is that?
I don't know. I lived there for like 15 minutes. I don't know. Lauren, what area code is that?
Oh, Paula says hi. Hey, Patrick. Hey, Patrick. Hey, Paula. Thanks for joining us.
Hey. Oh, my goodness.
So how are you dealing with, Amy says, I would love to co-host. What does it pay? You're spending a night with us.
That's all you need.
That's all you need. Excuse me. Can we just keep it real for a minute? It's a pandemic going on, Amy. Check yourself. Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
Pay you in love and Muddy Buddies, whatever we made. Puppy chow.
No.
What did we make? We made that.
Puppy chow. Is that what it is? Puppy chow?
Yeah,
See, I grew up calling, yeah, puppy chow or muddy buddies.
Muddy Buddies. Okay, I don't remember what we called it.
Sorry, I don't know what Lauren's question is. Era or area?
Oh,
Area code.
area code.
Sorry.
What's the area code, Lauren?
Come on, Lauren.
Oh.
Jump in. Join the club. Just kidding. Just kidding. She's like, who's this jackass? It's filter free Friday. I don't know what to tell you.
Oh my God.
Oh, 215. Thanks, Sherry.
Mom,
See,
how do you know that?
because it's a mom.
She knows everything. Oh my God, everything. You know, when you're like, where's the milk? And they're like, on the third shelf behind the butter, in the back, underneath the cheese. And you're just like, I didn't find it there, but then you said it was there.
Oh no, or the best one is like, where are your keys? You mean the ones that you lost last night or the ones you didn't put away? Oh, ouch, mom. Ouch. So
Oh
how are you doing and processing everything with the pandemic, because it is such a huge transition, and especially with EMDR, which we're all extremely used to being in offices, you know, the tappers, the different things like that. How are you doing with everything with the pandemic?
So it's definitely been a transition, that's for sure. I'm working from home, obviously, for both my agency and for my private practice. We're going on week 10, I think we're at. And honestly, it's been okay. I think it took a toll on me for a little bit, just constantly talking about the same thing.
Yeah.
Which is normal. I caught myself. I never used that word and I just used it. Caught myself. It was draining for a little bit. I had to stop watching the news for a little bit. Like I just did not, anytime like friends or family would like bring it up, it would frustrate me because I just felt like I was inundated with always talking about the same thing, because that's what's going on. That's what's happening in people's lives. Like I totally understand that. But after a while, I've gotten used to it. I've definitely gotten used to it. What I've been utilizing more so right now is more like DBT skills, whether that's like with my patients at my agency or some of my private practice clients, just because some of them and you can tell me, and I'm sure that Jamie would tell me I should, but with like newer private practice clients that like I've never talked to about EMDR, like I haven't even thought about using it with them.
Okay.
Like, what's your view on with like brand new people?
Yes.
I knew it.
You knew I was gonna say that.
No.
Here's the thing. Because I love EMDR.
I know. And I love you.
It's just like anything. What I've learned, and this is just my own stance on Friday Night Feels, keeping it real. If I'm not at least offering it, I feel like I'm holding something back from my clients that can help them.
Yeah.
What I have found, one of the resistance in the mental health field is we are so used to talking things out. It's like, oh, I have to be in therapy. I have to be in therapy. I have to be in therapy. And for a lot of issues, EMDR can resolve it so much faster than traditional talk therapy that I think it freaks us out a little bit.
Yeah.
And some of the skills that EMDR encompasses, especially during something like a pandemic, I think gives them something so efficient that they can use anytime, anywhere. That's how I look at it. And that, everyone has to practice with, what feels right to their spirit.
Yeah.
I was apprehensive of how, I was actually really sad when the pandemic happened because I didn't know exactly, I was very new. I had never done telehealth.
Right.
And Jamie in the Institute for Creative Mindfulness put together a training for us about how to do telehealth, and I'm so thankful for them to do that, because after that day I knew exactly how to do EMDR via telehealth, and I've been doing it ever since. Mm-hmm. But one of the things that I would say with love is what's holding you back, because I'm seeing people actually process their issues faster via telehealth.
Really? Mm-hmm.
And
It's fear. It's fear. I know what it is. It's my own fear, not the client's fear.
right. Well, and you know what though? I think that's really great to be able to say that, because I know a lot of people I've worked with that do EMDR are afraid of, well, what if there's an reaction, or what if something happens and it's over the telehealth?
Mm-hmm.
And my belief is, when you're skilled, just as I know you are, you're going to bring them home. Because people, if they're coming to you, even if it's their first session, they're going to feel that connection, and you're going to use your skills and your empathy and all of that magic that I know you have, to be able to say, this could be scary, there could be things that come up, but you're not alone doing it. It's not like we're doing, and in any type of therapy there's a risk of reaction or a negative reaction,
Mm-hmm.
but that means something's moving.
Right.
I sometimes look at it like food poisoning. Like when we had food poisoning, I don't know, like I had it a few weeks ago, and I thought, oh shit, I know what this is, but I'm not going to throw up. I'm not going to throw up. I'll be strong. I'll be okay.
Yeah.
And then I just let the body do what it needed to do, and I let my ego go, and the poison was able to get out, and then I was able to heal.
Right.
And
Yeah.
I think it's great. I think, for me, being able to acknowledge the fears there, I think that's self-love on your end as a clinician, of saying, you're human. This is just what you and I have been talking about.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Absolutely.
And
I'm gonna vow right here live to start doing it via telehealth.
okay. And I got your back, so
No, you're my consultant.
now we are right here. Like, it's literally a pandemic. We're not going anywhere. So Amy did get back to us.
Oh.
She's asking for crock-pot lasagna.
One that doesn't break.
Well, in the snow, it looks like something bled out. Your mom should be quoted. This will be one of my T-shirts when I get rich. I'm the mom. Enough said. Too true. Too true.
Yeah.
Paula is saying she's doing full EMDR with new clients, and it's going well. Amy's using it, different things like that. Jamie's saying if you believe in it, you can pitch it. She has a very on-live demo she did last week that she can send to you. And sorry, one of the messages was just confused me. But being able to look at it and remember, that's the vulnerability of therapy.
It's so true.
Because when clients are coming into us, they're just as scared as we are sometimes.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I don't think we talk about that enough.
I don't think so either.
Yeah.
It kind of goes along with that stigma of, well, I'm a counselor. I have this degree. I have this license. I know I should know better.
Yes.
I should know better. As if somehow, because we're in a certain field, that wipes out our humanity.
Totally. Yep. Absolutely. And that is something I really don't think that we talk about enough.
I don't think so either. And I don't know why, because it damages us. Mm-hmm. And clients know. I mean, clients can tell, that we're human. That it's okay.
Absolutely. I think clients appreciate it more when we are human, but I think there's this fear of showing your human side.
Yes.
And that might also have to do with like an age thing of like feeling like insecure about your age and what your abilities are with a client. And then if you're human, they might see that and question your ability.
Right.
That's just me.
And then I look at it as, then maybe it's not the connection for you. And I've had someone who wanted someone older or whatever, and it's like, okay, that's fine. But they tried to force it. And I'm like, this isn't like dating. Like, you don't have to go on another date just because you think you're supposed to. Like, let's get the check and cut this bitch for what it is.
I've had like 2 clients be like, I feel like this is going on a first date. And I'm like, well, let's just see how it goes, And then they're like, this date went really well. I'm like, good. I thought it went really well also.
Then I would come out, it's like, could you give me a good Uber rating or something? Or I don't know, I would say something totally stupid.
I probably did, but it was like a year ago and I don't remember.
But knowing me, I'd go into like full nerd mode. I'd either be talking about Star Wars or like essential oils or some random shit. I don't even know.
Those are the two things you would talk about.
It would just come out. The spirit moves you. You got to move with the spirit. I mean, it's like, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? You know, other than I remember, you know, how hard it was. There's something that happened where I had to show there was a family emergency and I had to cancel appointments.
Yeah.
And I give credit to my friend Dove, who was sharing offices with me, because it was one of these things, these situations where you don't know how serious it is, but you're still in shock that it's happening. And I felt this obligation. I'm like, but I can't cancel on my clients because they need me. And I went into her office and I said, so this is what's going on. You know, there's an accident. And I said, I don't know what to do. And she just looked at me with the most gentle, loving. And she said, you need to cancel and you need to leave. Mm-hmm. And then when I called all of my clients, they were all loving and supportive, like, hey, I hope you're okay. You know, is there anything you need? You know, it's like it strengthened that community. Absolutely. And I've noticed that a lot during the pandemic. And what I was telling you is, you know, for me, it was hard to transition to telehealth. I've been able to offer some groups in my, you know, well, anyone in New York, which I love.
Yeah. Oh my God, that's so cool.
And one of the things that I have found so beautiful is that there's this great connection of we're all going through this in different ways, but it's affecting all of us. Mm-hmm. Like this pandemic we all have different obstacles and struggles and resources and privileges, but this is affecting the human race.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And that to me helped me, because when this all happened, I was having a hard time. I was trying to, you know, use all of my skills, do everything. And then I don't know if I told you, this was something happened the other day where I hadn't seen some family members since this all happened. Like, we had communicated, I knew everyone was safe, but it was nicer out. So I just wanted to drop something off. And it was just, I remember driving to their house and I just had this thought. It was just like a fleeting thought of like, I have to put my mask on just in case, because I don't want to be the one to like bring illness into their home. And then seeing them, like, you know, we did the whole, they're on the porch, I'm in the car, whatever, you know, whatever it is. And it was just, it just hit like a ton of bricks. And that grief that I had to go through of, I can't even go into family's home.
I struggle with that tremendously because my family's not here.
Right.
My family's either on Long Island or in Manhattan. And I was supposed to go home 3 separate times. I had 3 flights, had to cancel them all. And I haven't seen my family since Christmas. Wow. And that has been the hardest thing for me because I could drive. I'm willing to take an 8-hour drive down there so I can see my family. But I've been around other people. And the last thing I want to do is, God forbid, bring something home to them.
Right.
So I stay here, you know, and it's hard. It's really hard to be away from family.
Yeah.
You know, but I think it would be harder if I brought something home.
Yes.
God forbid something happened.
Yep. It was funny, one of those moments. I went to work the other day, and just a fluke, the internet went down, and that just sent. I was in a couple weird. I was like, oh shit, this is it. It's the end. Now the internet's down. It is the end. It is the end.
Oh, yep.
I had to stop watching. Like, I can never watch a futuristic movie again. I think, like, you know, all of those things, like, my mind goes into like the red planets exploding. I just can't. I watch, like, you know, cartoons or, you know, like the Great British Baking Show or something.
So good. So good.
Well, we said we were going to talk about cooking. I mean, I know it's.
Oh my God. I'm going to bake banana bread tonight, just as an FYI.
That sounds delicious.
I'm like a banana bread expert now. I'm an expert at baking it, and I'm an expert at eating it.
Do you do it with chocolate chips ever?
No. I
It's not
don't,
such an expert.
I don't know if I really want to mess with a classic.
Well,
I don't know. I don't think I'm ready yet.
I think you could try it once and then you would know.
So do you want to hear about my baking fails?
Oh my God. I love it. Like the pan of muffins I was making, and then I ran out of milk, so I had to leave. It took me 20 minutes because, the mask and everything. You have to go into the store.
Yeah.
He said, like nothing. I was bitter.
Well, I was really bitter. This has happened on 2 occasions. My friend Melissa, who's watching, knows. My friend Julia knows, and my family knows. Some of my recipes don't call for the right amount of baking powder or baking soda. And so on 2 occasions now, I've wasted bananas because things have not risen. And so I tried to make mini muffins, and they came out like,
or the user?
what'd you say?
Is it the recipe or like the baker?
It's not the baker, okay? First of all, I don't need quotation marks around that. I am a baker.
There it is. There's Long Island Fire. It's coming out.
I told you.
Oh no, you didn't, Patrick. Disrespect me. Oh no, you didn't.
It was the recipe, okay? It was the recipe. It had the wrong amount of baking powder or baking soda, whatever it was. Yes, I put it in. Yes, Julia says I keep having banana-related baking fails. I've wasted so much time. That's the hard part.
Well, someone just, I'm going to disagree with this. Libby put in raisins. There's this meme out there that says, my trauma, my trust issues came from childhood when I went for that delicious chocolate chip cookie and it turned out to be a raisin one. That used to happen. Because one of my brothers would come home and my mom would make these. I'm like, ooh, cookies. She never made cookies. I'm like, oh, chocolate. I'm like, son of a.
Such a disappointment.
Raisins. But to each their own. I won't judge, but really, raisins?
But really, you are judging.
Hey, it's my show. Get off if you don't like it.
I love your show. I want to be on your show every day.
No, so I made these. It was a keto recipe, so I don't like balloon and need to wear like a muumuu when I leave the house. It's like to counter out the bread during the week.
Yes.
And they were coffee crumb like cupcakes or muffins. And I don't know what happened, but there was just no flavor at all.
It's so sad.
It was. It was a
hate
bitter fail.
It's such a sad moment when you're like waiting, when it smells really good. You're like so pumped. And then you look in your oven and it's a horrifying disaster.
I mean, I put my life at risk going to the grocery store because we know that's a risk.
It's a risk. Amazon Prime now. I get deliveries from Whole Foods. Just
brilliant.
Saying.
Yeah, I got to work on that.
No, you really shouldn't. I'm going to tell you right now, the amount of money that I have spent is astronomical.
But you haven't spent it on useless things like bobbleheads, so I think you're still winning. You're winning. I've been getting all these random oils from Young Living and other places delivered, so who the hell knows? At least I smell good if I don't shower. Like,
that's all that matters, right? Although no one's around.
Rollers. It's all about wellness.
It's all about wellness. It's whatever works for you. Come on.
Yes, and some people do like raisins. We're not judging.
No, we are not judging the raisins.
Oh my gosh, that's so funny.
No, I like craisins. I don't eat them anymore because they're super high in sugar. Yeah. But those.
But I find that food, the food situation, especially during the pandemic, has been a trigger for so many people. I've seen the spectrum where some people, have completely lost their appetite, but then other people are really just like, I can't eat enough.
Yes.
That anxiety, that stress. Have you experienced that or seen that?
Yes, 1,000,000%. I have experienced it. I joke around about this, but it's like really actually not that funny. But I have definitely struggled with that. I eat out of boredom. Even though I'm like not bored because I'm working all the time,
Yes.
but I like always need to grab something. So that's a big thing for me.
Right. Agreed.
And it's definitely a thing. I've heard it from clients, patients. I've heard it from friends. You know, I think there's this big push to be like super, like it's all over the place that like you could be baking or you could be exercising or you could be like becoming your best self in quarantine. But at the end of the day, there's a freaking pandemic going on.
Yeah.
And it's
I'm trying
scary.
to survive. Get off.
What'd you say?
I'm trying to survive. Get off my back.
Exactly. Like it's okay to not like be super productive right now.
I'm waiting for the zombies.
Maybe they won't come.
I have oils. Maybe we'll create an oil for that. All right. So Livy is saying it's okay. Livy, I'm really not judging you. I'm just expressing my feelings about the raisins. The raisin pandemic battle of 2020. So we'll have to pick this up when Amy's on.
Yes.
So, I just want to thank you so much for coming through. Someone is just saying, Samantha's saying, some seeking comfort through food because we're cut off from a lot of comforts right now. I 100% agree with that. I think it also gives us some creativity, some sense of security. I really agree with that.
Some sense of control, a sense of control.
Yeah.
There's very little control right now.
And something familiar. I think that's what a lot of us are looking for, at least in my experience, of some normalcy.
Absolutely. I agree with that.
So, unfortunately, we're out of time for today, Sweet Cherub.
So fun.
So thank you to everyone that watched us for Friday Night Feels. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and hopefully in the near future, I will see you again around.
This was so fun. I am so grateful that
Thank you
had
so much
me.
for coming, and thank you for everyone for joining us. Have a good night and stay safe.
Bye, guys.
Bye. All right, let me just. Everyone knows my technological.
Oh, that's okay.
It's taking me a minute to. I'm like that. Why isn't the picture going?